Hi friends, welcome to the Do Life podcast. I'm your host, Life Coach Layla, and today we're going to be talking about something I'm personally struggling with, and it's also very incredibly timely and important, and that is our mental well-being in 2025. We'll explore how taking care of our mental health has evolved from traditional practices to cutting-edge technologies. Did you know that mental health tech investments grew by over 30% last year? 30%. That is insane. It's a fascinating time to rethink how we care for our mind. It's even more fascinating how less taboo the topic has become. I remember back in the day, it used to be if somebody mentioned they were on Prozac or they were seeing a therapist or they had depression, it was this big taboo thing and they were labeled as crazy or weird or one-off. And in reality, everybody has something. I'm just going to throw that out there. You can argue with me if you want to, but I'm pretty sure everybody has something. And it doesn't necessarily need to be medicated or treated in any other way other than cognitive functions. But I think everybody's struggling with something. And to make it less taboo is just a giant leap of improvement and growth as a society, and I'm super excited to see where we're going with this. In today's episode, we'll cover innovative new practices, explore emerging technologies, and leave you with actionable steps to improve your mental health. So let's get started. First up, let's talk about how mindfulness has evolved from the old days of just positive morning affirmations and meditation. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm a big proponent for meditation. But I will say that there are so many other options and tools that we can use to improve our mental health that it's good to see that more options are becoming more mainstream as opposed to just those few practices that everybody's been using for years. So it's no longer just about talking positively to yourself in the mirror or sitting and focusing on your breath. While those are powerful tools that you can use, there are so many others. There's Yoga Nidra. I love this. Dr. Andrew Huberman has turned me on to the Yoga Nidra technique. So like in the middle of the day when you feel like you need a nap, but you can't nap. I'm not the greatest at taking naps. So instead of taking a full nap, you lay there and it's almost like a meditative, a non-sleep deep rest, I believe is what it is, NSDR. And you almost put your body and your brain into a meditative state so it gets that relaxation and that reboot without actually falling asleep and resetting your brain, because different things happen when you actually fall asleep, and it's a whole thing. But either way, so sleep is super important, to just throw that out there. If we want to have better mental health on a regular basis, minimizing stress, getting a good night's sleep, eating healthy foods that affect your brain. This is my own personal theory. There is no scientific evidence that I'm aware of to back this up. I've heard it as rumors and things of that nature, but in just my own personal experimentation, I've noticed that my mental health is directly related to my food intake. So when I have eaten a bunch of cookies and cakes and pastas and pies and carbs and sugars, I will spend the next couple of days in a super slump and depressed. Like my body and my brain are both depressed. When I eat fast food, I feel dumb. And I'm not saying that you're dumb because you eat fast food, or if you eat, I'm not saying any of those things. I'm saying I feel dumber when I eat fast food. I feel slower. I feel brain fog. I don't feel as creative. I struggle with certain things that would normally be easy and flow for me. Again, I'm not saying there's any scientific research behind this. These are just my own personal observations in myself and how my body reacts to things. So I live in the Midwest. It's in the negatives right now. It's like -2 degrees outside. And it's going to get worse as it gets darker. And the fun thing about that is there's about 1 foot of snow on the ground under a sheet of ice. It iced for an entire day of like sleeting, freezing rain to where it looked like we had about 4 inches of snow, but it was just 4 inches of ice balls. And then it snowed on top of that. So that's real fun to drive in. We call this a wintry mix, and it's amazing. I love it here. I'm just kidding. I'm actually really upset because I should be in the desert right now. And everything went wrong, and I let a lot of people down, and I feel like a complete asshole for a lot of reasons, and I'm doing a lot of self-reflection, and I'm really upset at a lot of things that have transpired in the past few days, and I'm not going to use this platform as a venting source. But when we're on the topic of mental health, like, let's just throw that in there, that's not adding to my wonderful seasonal depression in the snow. I'm supposed to be in Dubai, surrounded by my tribe and my people, and instead I'm in this miserable Midwest, is surrounded by sadness. And I want to say that the seasonal depression thing is real in places like the Midwest, where it's too cold to go anywhere or do anything. And it's typically cold in the holiday season. So not only is social isolation a real thing, we learned that from COVID, but you get the social isolation on top of the inability to go outside. One of the best things that you could do for your mental health is to go outside, get fresh air, get sunlight, get being in the forest. There's scientific evidence that shows that being in the forest for even 10 minutes a day will automatically reset your nervous system and give you the boost of endorphins that you need to make you happy and calm and stressless. And so when you're stuck inside because it's cold, so you're not getting all the mental health benefits of being outside, you're also getting the opposite of mental health benefits by being secluded and isolated inside. You are dealing with, this is funny, but it's not funny. So the other day, me and a friend were talking and kind of laughing about how our relatives seem to pass away around the holidays or important times. And it's not funny, but it kind of is. Our grandmas both passed around the same time, and they were both very crucial and integral people and part of our upbringing. And they both died around Christmas time. And his wife's grandma was passing around the same time, which was right before Christmas. We had this conversation. And my uncle, who I considered a father to me, he passed away on my husband's birthday. And it's kind of funny. Even if they didn't pass away around the holiday season, it's still hard for a lot of people to deal with the holiday season because you're missing those people that you love. You're missing your loved ones. You're missing having them. You're surrounded with everyone you love and you care about, and yet the one person that you really want and miss more than anything on the planet isn't here for you. So that's a lot of things stacked up against you that's kind of weighing heavy on your mental health. So you've got the seasonal depression, if that is a thing that you have the, the social isolation, the inability to go outside and be in nature, the missing of your family and your loved ones, in addition to, all the other stuff that's going on in our everyday life. A lot of people will put themselves in debt trying to make the holidays happy, and then they're stressed and overwhelmed about that and all types of things. So it's a big snowball for your mental health. And I said all that just to say that what you put in your body is important, but where you put your body is equally important. And there's a lot of tips and tools and tricks that we can use to improve our mental health. I covered some of the basics that, should be pretty common knowledge to most people: your sleep, your diet, your exercise. I don't know if we talked about body movement. One of the hardest things for me to do when I am in a depression or depressive state is exercise. I don't want to get out of bed. I don't want to shower. This is a product of me forcing myself to shower and not having the energy to style my hair. This is just natural, all natural, air dried, Broomhilda mess that we got going on here. I forget what disease. There's this girl on TikTok and she's like, I have 16 spoons to start the day, and it's a spoon to shower and a spoon to wash my hair or a spoon to shave, and it's one or the other. And that's kind of where I'm at. I didn't have enough spoons left to style my hair, but because I washed it, and that was more important. So whatever. If you don't get the reference, I just wanted to kind of explain that a little bit. So if I'm like, I didn't have enough spoons to wash my hair, and you people are like, this chick is crazy, what is she even talking about? It's a whole thing on TikTok. It's kind of amusing. But yeah, so I ran out of spoons. And when you're struggling, the idea of working out is so daunting. So it's almost impossible to think I'm going to go to the gym or I'm going to go run on a treadmill for an hour. And I want to say that you don't have to do any kind of strenuous exercise to improve your mental well-being, any kind of movement. Again, if you can go walk outside in nature for 10 minutes after a meal or first thing in the morning, that is the most amazing thing that you could do for your mental health. If that's not an option, any kind of movement, yoga, tai chi, qigong, all of these things just get your body to flow and move, and they're so easy and it's almost effortless. Something else is dance. It's almost aggravating when you're in a state of mind where you just want to lay in bed and rot, and then you hear a song come on that's happy and almost puts you in a happy mood and makes you want to dance, because that part of your brain wants to just lay there and rot, but the other part of your brain is like, oh my God, this is my jam. And you can't help but like get in that mood. Meanwhile, our brains want us to put on the sad, sappy music and cry along with it. And while, sometimes you got to feel it to heal it, I agree. That's an amazing thing that you should be doing. There's a fine line between being sad and being depressed and having depression. And you have to be able to differentiate between, okay, am I just sad about this? Or is my depression in full blown swing right now? And if you're sad about something, it could turn into depression if you're susceptible to that. So you have to be real careful with how you are managing your mental health and the tools that you use. If you can put on sad songs and cry for an entire day and then wake up the next day and you're like, okay, I'm over it, I'm better, that's great. Good. Do that. Absolutely. 100% if that helps, do that. If you put on sad music and you cry for an entire day and then the next day you wake up and you want to do it again, maybe be a little bit more mindful on whether or not this is just a season of sadness or if the sadness is overtaking you. Again, I don't want to give any doctoral advice. I am not a licensed therapist. I'm a certified life coach. There's a big difference. So please, 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 please work with your mental health care facilitators and get the proper care needed. I just want to talk about healthy things that we can do on our own. Obviously, certain situations will require you to get help outside of your own confinement and capabilities, and I really request that you do that. So yeah, we talked about your sleep, your diet, your movement, exercise. Those are the big three. Those things you hear over and over, they fix everything, and they really do. And they're just like the hardest things to do because there's so many temptations to stay up and hang out with your friends instead of go to sleep on time, and to eat a pile of cookies instead of a pound of broccoli, or, whatever. So those are the three main factors, things that you can do to help improve your mental health. Those are kind of no-brainers. But there's fun new things that are coming out. Like there's VR therapies. You can put a VR therapy. You can put a VR headset on and overcome your fear of spiders or sharks, or be transformed into a nice peaceful place, and to learn how to relax your nervous system and to relive past traumas in a controlled environment and help release those. There's the tapping, there's the eye movement. So you can tap on your body and say different phrases, and it helps rewire the trauma that's stored in your body. There was a book written, I'm so sorry, I can't think of the name of the author, but the book is called The Body Keeps Score. If you have not read it, please read it. Big trigger warning. Please make sure you're in a mentally good place to read it. It's a hard read. It's very triggering, especially if you've had a lot of trauma. I borrowed the book from my oldest daughter, who had highlighted certain phrases and things that were like, oh, that's a conversation that we should have. So not only was my trauma triggered, but then knowing that she had trauma that was triggered was even more triggering, because as a parent, you don't want your children to ever have to deal with certain things. And it is a lot. So there's definitely a few days where I was like, okay, we're going to set this book down for a while until I'm mentally capable to finish reading this chapter, because it was a lot of triggering. And I've read it twice now, and every time I read it, new triggers happen. So it seems like as I heal certain things from the past, new things that were suppressed pop up because they were just so hidden by some of the other things that I never even acknowledged them. So every time I read it, there's a different understanding. It's so crazy how it works. I'm talking about this book because it is scientifically proven that your body holds trauma. And when you do the tapping, you're rewiring your body to release that trauma. When you do, it's like ETT or something, where you look back and forth real fast while reliving the events of something traumatic, and something about the eye movements and the direct connection in your brain helps your body release that trauma or view it differently so it's not so triggering. The sad thing about our brains is it doesn't know what the difference between a memory and real life is. So when you relive a trauma in your head, your brain and your body react as if it's happening again over and over and over again. And when you do these cognitive tips and tricks and things that are coming up, it helps rewire your nervous system to understand that it's okay and that it's not happening again. And it doesn't trick your body into thinking it's a memory. It tricks your body into not reacting as traumatically as you did initially. So these are fun new cognitive techniques and tools that are coming to be now that the conversation of mental health is not so taboo. And there's breath work, there's somatic everything, somatic breathing, somatic dance, somatic, like all the things. I've done quite a few. I've done flow with Wanpa Barahona, and you release stored energy and you feel like a different person when you're done doing these breathwork sessions. And I highly, highly suggest that you try them out if you haven't. Super transformative. Breathwork to me is so intriguing. You can induce states of hallucinations in just the way you breathe. You can get your body to release its own DMT as opposed to taking plant medicine in the jungle somewhere, or all the fun stuff. I don't want to say the fun stuff. It's not always so fun. It's actually not fun at all. Anyway, and then there's the psychotherapies that they're doing now, the psilocybin and ketamine and all the different things that they're doing that you can go and take psilocybin in a controlled environment with a trained professional, which is way different than what we used to do as kids, where we would just go into a big dark room with lots of lights and music and dance. Anyway, but yeah, there's so many therapies now that are using these drugs that we used to take forever ago just to induce happiness in altered states of being. And now you can go in it looks like a doctor's office and get hooked up to wires and machines and monitored and be in a controlled environment to make sure that you are having a pleasant experience and you are utilizing it for the betterment of yourself and your mental health. And I just love that that's a thing that we can do this day and age. Like, drugs have been vilified so long, for so many years, that now they're like, hey, these things aren't so bad. Maybe those flower children of the 60s were into something. And it's just sad that it took this long for them to be like, yeah, okay, let's do things. Let's research these mushrooms that seem to make everybody that takes them real happy. Maybe if we do it in a controlled environment where people aren't just taking random drugs from strangers that they met at a party somewhere and then being super full of anxiety, wondering if these drugs are going to work or kill us. Being in a controlled environment takes away a lot of that stress that really shouldn't be associated with these drugs in the first place. So having that option is super important. And I love it. I'm so excited about technology and where we're going as a civilization, and the fact that, so many men can talk about their assaults and their traumas and things that have happened to them. And before, it was so taboo. If a guy talked about something that happened, everybody would have a fear that would be used against him. Oh, you're such a loser. That's why your swim teacher touched you inappropriately or whatever. And now it feels like it's more along the lines of bullying the bully. Like, if somebody comes out and was like, that's why your swim teacher touched you inappropriately, that's the person that's getting attacked. Like, why would you say something like that? That wasn't his fault. How dare you? And I love that as a society that we are coming together and supporting each other and our traumas. So I'll give you a little bit of history about myself. I was raised by my aunt and uncle. I called them Aunt Mom and Uncle Dad, just because I was over there every other weekend, every spring vacation, summer vacation, winter break. It was like they had joint custody, but not legally. I was just there. And they're both passed away. But we got into 3 arguments my entire life. 3. And one of them was some things that happened in a camping trip that I thought were inappropriate. And I was really concerned about the children involved. And, as a single mom, I was on high alert. I didn't want my children to ever undergo any of the traumas that I had went through. So I was very cautious and observant. And something that happened, and one of my nieces was doing things that were concerning. And I wanted to know where this behavior came from and where she learned it and who taught her that and all of the things. And I was questioning. And my Aunt Mom got defensive and was like, well, this is just something that happens to everybody and you just need to deal with it. And I was like, absolutely not. I will never just sit by and deal with it. And then as I got mad, I do this thing where I get mad and I go for a walk because I clear my head and I need to do the things. And I went for a walk and part of me, I wasn't mad and I didn't understand why I felt mad because I wasn't. And when I realized I was sad for her because that was her reaction, because that was the reaction that was given to her when she was that age. And my generation and younger, we're not just accepting things as is, and we're not just repeating things that we were told because I said so or whatever. We are deep thinkers and change makers and generational curse breakers and trauma avoiders, not avoiders, something. So when I hear my Aunt Mom say that's just how it is and it happens to everybody and you just have to deal with it, I genuinely felt sorry for her because then that means that as a small child, when things were happening to her, that's what she was told. And that means her needs weren't met. And when we're young, the first 7 years of our lives are just crucial for our development. Our brains are in a theta stage, and that's our programming. So here we are as adults still trying to understand and reprogram our brains from things that happened from when we were 7. And I don't know how old she was when these things happened or what she was told, but it makes so much more sense in some of the other things that have transpired in our histories that it was like, your needs weren't met as a child. You didn't understand. And it's one of those things when you're a kid and you reach out to your safe person and you say, hey, here's this thing I don't think is right. And it's met with dismissiveness and almost anger and aggression. It messes with you. And I love that men specifically are coming out about some of the traumas that they've undergone as children, because that was such a taboo thing and we didn't talk about it. And the more women talk about the things that have happened to them, the more we realize how common it was and how disgusting it is. And we can be together for each other as a society and come together to support and uplift each other, to know that you're not alone is a lot to some people. They need that. And I love how as a society we can come together and demystify this taboo topic of our mental health. And a man can say, yeah, I was talking to my therapist the other day, and not be scoffed at or looked down upon. I think everybody should go to therapy. Even if you had an amazing childhood, you had great parents, you should still go to therapy. I don't care. Everybody needs to learn healthy coping mechanisms, if nothing else, or ways to deal with trauma, or maybe heal your childhood wounds that you maybe don't even know that you have. But I really think that everybody should go to therapy at least a couple times and just have conversations with someone and talk about some things. And I love that going to therapy doesn't admit you're broken or something's wrong with you or that you're crazy. It's just, hey, maybe there's a better way to go about this. Maybe I just need an unbiased opinion to have a conversation with. Those are the things that I'm really excited about, at least as far as the trajectory of our society. So being able to have these conversations and not be looked down upon is amazing. And I'm rambling. So, okay, that was a lot of the old school techniques and a blend of some of the newer techniques. A lot of the new things, when I say 30% of that is your wellness apps, your Mind Valley, your Gaia, your Headspace, your Calm, your Wiza, all of the things. And then you've got your wearable tech like Apollo, Neuro, Muse, Whoop, all of those things that track even my Samsung watch will be like, hey, you're kind of stressed. Do you want to breathe? You want to do some box breathing? I love that. I love that if you're having an anxiety attack, you can just hit a button on your watch and you can count your breath as opposed to focus on your trigger and calm down. So not only is talking about mental health less taboo, having mental health issues is less taboo, and we can be more open and say, here's a thing that I'm struggling with right now. And people aren't going to think we're crazy because we're having a panic attack. They're going to be like, okay, well, let's take a deep breath and breathe with me. And they'll be able to help you because they understand it, because it's probably something that they have or they've dealt with by someone who's close to them that does have it. And all the technology and everything, that the advancements that are coming are just going to continue to get better. And that is so exciting for us as a whole. And so we've talked about some of the old techniques and the new techniques. Let's talk about some different ways to implement them. You should have a mental health toolkit. So like I said, my watch, I can hit a button and I can do some box breathing if I'm feeling super stressed or angry or I need to reset. I can do the physiological sigh, which is always a good one for me because you can do that anywhere, and you just take a deep breath in through your nose. And when you breathe out, you sigh audibly. And then that kind of resets your central nervous system, which is amazing and something that you can do quickly. So if somebody says something, they ask you a question and it's triggering and you want to respond aggressively or whatever, do that sigh, take a deep breath, and then respond and not react. Also, one of the hardest things I've ever had to learn how to do. So yeah, you want to build your mental health toolkit. What are the tools that you use? What are the things that I've talked about today that you could implement? Can you practice going to sleep on a more regular basis? Can you practice a mindful meditation in the morning? So one of the best ways to set yourself up for success in the mental health department is to show up for yourself first and foremost. If the first thing you do is grab your phone, please don't. That is the worst thing you can do, because you're basically letting everybody else set and dictate your day for you. And what I mean by that is, like, I woke up a few months ago and I grabbed my phone first thing to see what time it was. And I had 27 messages from a friend of mine who was having an issue in the middle of the night and wanted to blame me for some things that didn't have anything to do with me. And I couldn't shake that feeling. All day I was angry, I was crabby, I wanted to go off on her. Everything I wanted to say in response to everything that she said in the text message was going to cause us to not be friends anymore. And I didn't want to lose her as a friend. I wanted to have a rational conversation about these things, but I was just so frustrated and angry. And then it spilled over into the whole day. My husband will roll over and grab his phone and then have like a news article, and it's something sad that happened. And then the whole day he's sad. Where when I wake up, I try to do I'm a 6-phase meditation facilitator. I know I mentioned that, but I love to do the 6-phase meditation first thing in the morning because it has a portion of it where it's day segmenting and visualization. So you're planning out your day in a fast forward. Like I visualize like I'm watching a movie and fast forward, and it's my day and how I'm reacting to things, what I'm doing, and I can set the tone and the mindset and the mental abilities for that day. So when things happen and they don't go 100% according to plan, it doesn't throw everything off schedule. It's one of those like, oh, okay, we'll just deal with it and adjust later. And it's not as big a deal as opposed to if I wake up and I'm already in some sort of mood that somebody else has kind of dictated for me. So when I wake up, the first thing I do is I show up for myself. And I highly suggest that that's what you do too. So show up for yourself first and foremost. What are some of the other tools you can implement if you can't get therapy? Actually, you know what? There are tools and techniques that you might not know are available to you. If you have a job, most companies have some sort of a health system through their HR. So like your insurance companies will technically pay you or reward you for going to your wellness checkups every year. There are different tools that you can use in a lot of different companies that will assist your mental health. A lot of them will let you download apps like Calm and Headspace for free, depending on the company. They don't necessarily advertise it to its employees because it's more of a enticement for new people to sign up with them. It's something that they want to brag and say that they have as an option that's available, but not necessarily something they want you to sign up for because that costs money. We're not going to get into all that, but you know what I'm saying is basically like you can go through your HR department and see what kind of benefits or programs that they have. Like my husband's company lets him see a therapist for 6 sessions for every problem or issues he's having. And if you live in the household, even if you're not legally married or, you're just together, if you have an issue, you can also utilize the same system, or even like for dependents and things like that. So there's a lot of different companies that have a lot of different programs that they're not advertising or telling us about. So look into your HR programs and see if there are the options to download some of these apps or go get therapy, because you could have good mental health and it could be paid for and you just don't know about it. So something else you could look into. And then look into some of the apps. Most of them come with a free trial. So you can try them out for a week, 2 weeks, 7 days, that's a week, 30 days, things like that before you purchase, and see if it's a good fit. See if it's worth your money. See if it's worth your time, if it's something that you're going to do. So I have a handful of them that I've subscribed to, and I utilize them on a regular basis. So obviously don't pay for them if you're not going to use them. And then maybe the opposite. Maybe do a digital detox. Maybe don't use your phone or grab your phone for a day or two. Maybe go spend a weekend camping in the woods with no signal, be completely unavailable, just cut off and disconnect, and see how that makes you feel. A digital detox. And again, remember, like, you are the sum of the 5 people you surround yourself with the most. So who your community is, who you're surrounding yourself with, is a big important factor on your mental health. Are your people bringing you up, or are they draining you down? Maybe reevaluate who you spend your time with if you're not feeling uplifted, if you're feeling dragged down and energetically drained at the end of an interaction with someone. So yeah, I challenge you to implement one of these things that we've discussed today. Let me know how it goes. Let me know in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, do all the things, write a review. I hope you found value in this video. So to recap, we talked about some of the new cutting edge technologies and things that they're doing to improve our mental health. We talked about how it's not as taboo. It's not a stigma anymore. It's just common, and it's okay to have a conversation about it. We've talked about some of the ways that you can implement some of the new practices and a lot of the new techniques and tools that you can use, where to find them. So this has been a really hard episode for me to do. I'm going to be 100% real with you. I have this excruciating depression migraine that I've had for like 3 days now. And I know technically depression migraine isn't a thing, but it is definitely a comorbid relationship that is happening in my brain right now. So, and I also feel like I'm going to lose my mind. I recorded this whole entire episode and the audio didn't go through. So this is the second time that I'm recording this. I'm out of light. I had to turn the light on midway through the video. I'm sure that looks super weird, but you know what? I'm so over it. I'm so over it. I'm so over it. We're done. We're going to have a great day. We are going to go live life. No, we're going to go do life cognitively, I guess. Whatever. Anyway, I love you. I appreciate you. I thank you for being here and sticking with me today. I wish you the best. Please take care of your mental health for you and for everyone around you. Stay safe.